Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to LatinoGraduate.net Global Web Broadcasting. Very honored today to have a very special guest, a man who has taken on many fights, many bullets, many issues at hand, has been outspoken on many levels, and continues to do so even at this level of his career, where most people would be considering retiring. He's considering being in the battlefield with the issues that are going on to Arizona. Is it really just an educational issue in Arizona, or is it really more of a global issue? When we're talking about education, we are talking about the issues of banning books, censorship of information, and ending Latino subject matters in our high schools. And is Arizona really only the first step to something that it could be much broader? And for that, we're going to bring today author, professor, and someone that we can call a leader in our community, Dr. Rodolfo Rudy Acuna. Thank you very much for being here with us, sir. Let's do it. The applause is not only because it's you, but it's also because of your work, and we thank you for being here today.
That's because you put an applause sign up there.
Well, we paid them all off before we started the show. That happens. Dr. Acuna, or Rudy, what would you like to be called?
Rudy.
Rudy. Okay, Rudy, we'll go on with the next show. Rudy, we got a problem in Arizona, and you're right in the middle of it.
Well, I'm in the middle of it for many reasons. One of the reasons is that they're censoring my book, or they're banning the book. They say they're not banning it, they're just removing it. But they're playing games. They are right now they're engaging in thought control. And they want to control what Mexicans think there. Because if they can control that, they think they can hold back the fact that 43% of the students in the Arizona schools are Latinos. And if they don't know anything, then they won't vote. And they'll keep control of the state. There are many other reasons, or economic reasons, which we've already gone into.
Let's go over it. What are the economics?
It's that, for example, the prison industry has been privatized in Arizona. The prison industry makes money in having inmates, and their inmates, many of them are Latinos. The people, when they're deported, are in prisons, and people are making money out of it. People right now, if they get an education, that means that they won't be in prison, and the prison population will go down, and they're not going to make any money. You have the whole gun industry is making money from guns because they're selling it to the cartels. Now they get away with it because everybody's afraid of Mexicans. So the Mexican becomes the boogeyman. They become the vampire. You know, in the vampire movies where the aliens
the cucuy issue is coming back to us.
So people are afraid. There are many ways that they make money off of Mexicans. They don't pay taxes. This is what the Koch brothers want. They don't want to pay any taxes. And one of the methods used is censorship. Keep knowledge away from people. Keep knowledge away from people. Keep knowledge, that feeling that you are someone, that feeling of identity. And this is what Mexican American Studies is about there. It's about critical thinking and identity. Well, these are two poisons for the people that have special interests.
Mm-hmm. The idea is there is fear in the air, and they're turning the fear also against ourselves.
No, they're fabricating the fear. They're to get other people to be afraid, so that other people can't see how jodidos they are.
Mm-hmm. So they accept the placency that they're in, and then take away their hope?
Well, they say, well, if you can control Mexicans, like, for example, I'm sending my kids to school. Well, I want my kids to get a good education. I don't want them to be around with those gangbangers. So what do? I want to send them to charter schools. So the charter schools are controlled by what? Private interests. So it's just a vicious circle.
Now, what is it about your book that people are so fearful about?
They're fearful for an awful lot of things. Most people have never even read the book. They look at the cover and they look at just the title, Occupied America. Well, are you saying that the United States is occupying other people? Are you saying that Mexicans are occupied in the United States? I never said it. Occupied America, I mean the whole Americas belong to everybody. They belong to Argentinians, they belong to Chileans, they belong to Peruvians, Central Americans, they're all Americans. But we've appropriated that title. And so consequently, if anybody says American, we say, well, they're talking about the United States. Well, we're not talking about the United States. We're talking about 1492, when the slave trader Christopher Columbus landed in the Americas, and he started to occupy it and destroy the civilizations that were there.
I have heard students and professors and teachers in Arizona, making a counter argument, counter movement. I don't see it outside of that area. Maybe I'm a little blinded by it, or do you
that
see
disturbs me. That disturbs me. I think that we as a people have not stood up very well on this fight. If you see your family in trouble, you fight for your family. You fight for your names. You say, they used to tell me, Rodolfo, you really have to respect your family name. You can't besmirch it when you were a kid. Well, right now they're besmirching an entire nationality, and people are just sitting there and taking it. I think that, especially the academicians, I think they've lost all sense of fight. They don't fight for anything. Well, I have to write an article, so I really can't go to that demonstration. I have to write an article, so I need the money, so I can't really give the money to
La Causa
in Arizona. I just read an article where the most stingy middle class in the United States is the Latino. I mean, they are really agarrados. They don't give money to anything. I think that is something that is terrible. I think that we have to start to look at it. If we have pride in ourselves, and if we want to realize, look at, for example, an awful lot of students that I have had, and students since the 1960s that we have in the universities, they're not giving back. It's hard to get them to go to an alumni dinner, to give $50 to go to that alumni dinner, and when the money is going to scholarships. I think that there's a sense of moral outrage that is missing right now. They don't get angry about anything, you see. Not even look at, in 2009, a little girl by the name of Briseña Flores, 9 years old. The Minutemen broke into her home. They assassinated her father. And then she was begging for her life, and as she was begging for her life, they shot her in the head. How much, if this would have happened to the black community, they would have been, in the streets. This would have happened to any community but ours, they would have been in the streets. What did we do about it? Well, I didn't know about it. Well, why don't you know about it? You see? And so consequently, this is it. Like censorship doesn't, to me, I don't care if they're censoring my book. They censored my children's books in 1970, the state of Texas. But I really don't care. But I do care about the principle that they can single out a specific group and control them. And one of the areas of control is censorship, that is thought control. So I think that is terrible. I think we should be upset. But I don't get too upset because my book is concerned. I think my publisher should be concerned. I don't think that I necessarily should be concerned. But you have to look at that, but look at what we have in our community. Politics, political consciousness is like a vocabulary. I say that we are political pochos because all of us speak Spanish, but at probably about a third grade level, because we don't get the vocabulary. Well, the same thing with politics. You don't get the vocabulary, you don't grow. You see, you don't grow. And if you don't grow, you don't get certain concepts. And I don't think that we're getting those concepts. But can you expect any different? What is the biggest one? Univision. That's our biggest thing. Do you ever see Jorge Ramos there? The only thing he is progressive in is in immigration. But you take any other issue and he's to the right of center. Then you have Don Francisco, and he has a contest with Señorita Colita. I mean, that is, to me, it's porquería, Señorita Colita. And so you have these little 18-year-olds running around there, and everybody's watching. Don Francisco. It's a babosada. But, you know, we play into that. We have now a fairly large middle-class, educated class among Mexicans in
Where
the
are
United
they?
States. I don't know where they are. I don't think that, I'm not saying that all of them, but the majority, the bulk of them, the core of them, are not active in anything. There are some people who work day in, day out, who are really hard workers. I'll even say on my faculty that's in Chicano Studies, I'll say if 5, 6 of them have helped out, you know, continuously, that's an awful lot. Will I say that that they're concerned? Yeah, they're concerned, but they're not concerned enough to get up and to not to go to their Starbucks and get their Starbucks that day, or not to have the comfort of their own particular life.
Do you see any particular group of peers across the nation? Because obviously, you know, ethnic studies, Chicano studies is everywhere. Is anybody really rattling around this, or
No, not too much. I think that there are some. Yeah, they're concerned. They're concerned.
what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean?
What do you know? You have to take concern to an active level.
Mm-hmm.
Have they taken it to an active level? No. Look, again, when you had similar situations in the South, like Selma, you had whites, blacks, every color pouring into Selma.
Right.
We should be pouring into Tucson today. We should have 60, 100,000 people in the streets there, because it's not that far. You can make it in one day. You can make it 6, 7 hours, and 6, 7 hours back. You see, you can do it in a day.
So are we waiting to watch it on CNN News?
Yeah, probably, because the revolution is going to be televised, we think. But this is, you know, I get sarcastic on it, because it's easy for me to get up. I just read the newspapers, and I'm pissed off, because, you know, you see the injustice.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't get pissed off. Look at right now what's happening to our so-called middle class. It's getting wiped out. When you have tuition that is going up to the point that it's almost a third of the father's salary, they're not going to be able to go to school. We have less students now from Boyle Heights and East Los Angeles than we did 10 years ago, proportionately. We have less from South Central Los Angeles than we did proportionately, you see. And the ones that we have right now are on Pell Grants or are on different kind of grants. But those things are drying up. What's going to happen when tuition goes up to $10,000 a year? Who is going to be able to afford it?
Los riquillos?
Yeah, and are we doing anything about it?
No.
No. Well, they're not foreclosing on my home. You know, they may be foreclosing on everybody else's home, but they're not foreclosing in my home. And we always think about myself, not in my backyard.
What do we have to do? I mean,
I
think
can't
you've,
say, you know, for anybody what they're going to do. But, you know, again, going back to my grandparents and everything, you know, Rodolfo, tienes que tener amor propio. I have enough self-respect that I'm not going to take it, you know. I'm not going to take it when they're calling me a Mexican or when they're trying to demean me. You know, my attitude is go screw themselves, and that's me.
We do have a question from the audience, and David Kippen has a question. So, David, what was,
I just want a little background. I mean, has the state of Arizona passed a law? Is this a bill as a proposed law? Is it banning ethnic studies completely, or Chicano studies in particular? Just a little background about what's precipitated
No, it's just, It's 2281. It's a state law. It's abolished ethnic studies. But they're not enforcing it toward blacks, nor Asians, nor Native Americans. They're enforcing it towards Mexicans. They're also, they shut down the program in Tucson, and they've taken the books out of the classrooms. They say that they did not ban them, they removed them. But it's ridiculous. They're playing mind games right now.
Thank you very much for the question. That sort of leads on to another question is, let's assume that we just sit back. We continue to be complacent, because I think that's the state we're in, unfortunately. What do you see happening after that, into the future?
Well, I think that we can see what happened when they passed 1070. It was enforced in Arizona, but now we have laws in Alabama, we have laws throughout the South, we have laws in, I think, Pennsylvania. So in Ohio, and I think that it's just going to spread. You know, you take a bully, and you give in to that bully, and you don't fight back. That bully is empowered, and I think that people are being empowered right now. The reason they're taking on Mexicans is that Mexicans are fair game, and they know they can get away with it. If they didn't know whether they could get away with it, they thought they were going to get something in the mouth, they wouldn't do it. They don't mess around with the blacks that much anymore. They still, you know, give them a raw deal, but they don't really mess with them. They mess with us, and we don't do anything back, and they're going to continue to do it, and it's going to get worse.
Now, students that are learning Chicano studies, Mexican American studies in the high schools, the jobs of the professors in the colleges who are teaching that subject matter, they might as well pack up and go home, because they're not going to be needed anyway.
Well, they've knocked out most of the programs in the colleges, and you have your professors not doing anything about it. This is the frustrating aspect of it, that people take it. They take it lying down. You know, I used to think when I was reading about the Holocaust, and I was reading about the rounding up of the Jews, I said, why didn't they fight back? Why didn't they fight back? I mean, the gypsies were dragged away. I mean, they were fighting tooth and nail. They bit, they pulled hair, etc. But the Jews didn't. They didn't fight back. And you know, I was a little bit, I think, unfair when I made that judgment, because we're not fighting back. You see, we're not fighting back against these injustices. We're not doing a thing about it.
So what happened to the Zapata idea where this is a mejor parado, como dice, mejor parado que en de rodillas or something like that? We have a question on the floor here from Mr. Agustin Duran, Latino California News. Mr. Duran.
Just one question. How much disconnected is the immigration community with the first, second generation Latinos that sometimes probably might be the role that they don't get involved because they don't feel that they are probably coming from Mexico or the immigrants enough, and the immigrants on the other hand, they don't really speak the language and they don't get involved on the issues. I mean, what is the
I think that there is a connection there. I think that there is a connection right now with the professors today. You know, in the generation that came in during the 60s and 70s, most of them came from neighborhoods. They made it to college through the community college, you know, circuit. They went to state colleges. Finally, they went and got their PhDs. Today we have students that start the university on a scholarship. They'll go to the Ivy Leagues, they'll go to other places, and they'll go all the way through and get their PhDs, and they'll never have seen a barrio, other than not even their high school, because they probably went to a Catholic school or a private school. It's just a different class of kids that are coming up, or people that are coming up. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. I think that we do have, and I think you alluded to it in your question, that you do have some prejudice on the part of your pochos like myself toward the immigrant. Because an awful lot of the people who go into school right now and take advantage of these type of programs are immigrant populations. And a lot of the immigrant kids are first generation college students. And then they see them and they see them getting, that they're making it, and what do? You see, they're making it, and so there's a certain amount of jealousy there. Or we say, well, this applies to the immigrant, it doesn't apply to me. So, I mean, there is some type of division. Although I will say that the Chicano generation has done very well.
The idea of the world, how does the world react when they hear the idea, we're censoring books in the United States? I mean, if this was done in the Soviet Union, if this was done in Chile, if this was done in Argentina, where there has been a history of it and it got bloody because of the shutdown, here people are seeing it like, well, there's just one book less on the shelves.
Yeah, but the thing is that here in this country, Flores Magón used to say that this was a nation of marranos, that they never thought. And they don't think. Today we have more people in prisons than they had in the Russian gulags. But we can point to the Soviet Union, we can say, oh boy, they were communists, they were bad. But look at the conditions in our prisons today. And who are in the prisons? Who are the majority of the prisons? The blacks, and then there are Latinos, and there are poor people. The whites that are in there are poor, you see. And so consequently, I don't think that we ever look at ourselves. We don't see that we have more censorship here than most countries in Europe.
Now you're standing up for the rights of the students of Arizona, and I want to make it clear that it really has, like you shared earlier, it's not your book because they're censoring your book. It's the whole concept of censoring thought and intellect. What's your advice to all of us?
The censorship issue was secondary. For me,
Right.
the issue was that you were singling out a group of people, a specific group of people for disparate treatment. That is discrimination. That is racism. They were applying laws to Mexicans that they weren't applying to blacks, Asians, whites, or Native Americans. And I think that this is wrong. Disparate treatment is wrong.
What's your advice to all of us in the United States, around the world, and how do we give hope to the people in Arizona?
Well, I think that, again, we're going to be leaving on the 24th, as you know, to the 26th to Arizona.
February?
February.
24, 26.
We're going to take about 60 people. I think that Jerry Maras, one of my colleagues who said it, that we should make this a crusade. We should be taking people in there every week. We should be taking hundreds of people into Tucson. We should be showing the state and we should be showing the nation that we care.
What's the message we share? We care, or a message is hell no?
No. The message back is when you're under attack, what do? The students in Arizona say? You fight back. And we have to fight back.
We can't sit on our laurels anymore, if we have.
Well, what laurels do we have? I mean,
We're getting our feet cut underneath us every day and saying thank you.
Yeah. Just because we don't use a corn to clean ourselves, after we go to the bathroom, it doesn't mean that we've made it.
Your closing statements to our public across the globe.
Well, I didn't want to offend anybody. But the thing is, I didn't want to offend anybody. But the thing is, I do think that we have to show a little bit of pride. If we don't show pride, then we're going to have to fight this fight for the next century. And I'll be gone by that time.
Well, you may be gone, but your spirit will live on. You've had a fight since 1960, so since you brought out your books, and you've expended every energy into it, and I want to thank you and honor you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue with other views throughout the nation on perspectives of today's Rudy's presentation, the words I get is that can we do more? We must do more. We have to do more. We want to thank our honorable guest today, Rudy Acuna, who continues the fight in our communities, who reminds us that we have to be activists. We can no longer sit back and wait for Superman que venga y nos rescate.
Or Superwoman.
Superwoman también. Thank you. Rudy, thank you very much for being on the show with us.
Thank you.
Okay, it's always a pleasure to have you. And we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.